Hello, my lovelies. It is time for another round of Have I Read It? So stay tuned. If you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. Have I Read It is one of my multiple TBR games that I play in order to help pick my TBR for the upcoming month. And the way this one works is you get to help pick my TBR. So I react to a haul from over 3 years ago, and I tell you if I've read the book, if I haven't read the book, or if I've unhauled the book. And out of all the books that I still own that I have not read, you get to vote on which book or books you would like for me to read in the upcoming month. And depending on how many there are, will determine how many I pick at the end. So if I have 1 to 9 unread that I still own, I'll pick the number 1 voted book. If I have 10 to 19, I'll pick the top 2, and so on and so on. So today we're going to be reacting to my book haul July 2020. And from the thumbnail, there's a stack nearly up to here on me. It's like while I'm standing, it's a lot. So I'm very, very, very nervous about how this one is going to go. The last one actually went quite well, but this one's a little scurry. All right, let's get started. Hey guys, it's Melanie. Welcome to my channel. Today I have my July 2020 book haul, so stay tuned. So as you can see here, and you can't even see the top of this, I have a massive, massive stack of books. I think there were 44 books here that I accumulated in the month of July. Yeah. So currently I'm just able to reach the top sitting like this. So I think I'm going to kind of split this pile up into 2 piles. I'll be right back. Okay, so I made these a little more manageable. This entire stack here all came from Ollie's. I don't think you actually see the bottom. It only shows, yeah, there's like 4 more books past this one. And past this one right here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more books. So yeah, I got a lot to show you, so I'm just going to jump right in. And as soon as I said, let's jump right into it, my phone rang. So I think I said before, this entire stack over here, these all came from Ollie's. Let me change my angle again. That's better. Okay, so this first book is 1 Week Girlfriend by Monica Murphy. It's a little... I don't know if I still own this one. Okay, so it does look like I still own this one. This one says, breakout sensation Monica Murphy takes the new adult genre by storm with the deeply emotional, completely addicting story of Drew and Fable. Temporary. That's the word I'd use to describe my life right now. I'm temporarily working double shifts, at least until I can break free. I'm temporarily raising my little brother, since apparently our actual mother doesn't give a crap about either of us. And I always end up as nothing but the temporary girlfriend, the flavor of the week for every guy who's heard the rumor that I give it up so easily. At least Drew Callahan, college football legend and local golden boy, is upfront about it. He needs someone to play the part of his girlfriend for 1 week, in exchange for cash. As if that's not weird enough, ever since he brought me into his world, nothing really makes sense. Everyone hates me, everyone wants something from him, and yet the only thing Drew seems to want is me. I don't know what to believe anymore. Drew is sweet, sexy, and hiding away more secrets than I am. All I know is I want to be there for him permanently. So if you want me to read this, vote for 1 Week Girlfriend. All right, next up. Next up we have The Weight of Zero by Karen Fortunati. I don't know about this one either. Okay, that is still one that I own and I have not read it. Okay, this says, for fans of 13 Reasons Why and Girl in Pieces, this is a novel that shows the path of hope and life for a girl with mental illness. 17-year-old Catherine Pulaski knows zero is coming for her. Zero, the devastating depression born of Catherine's bipolar disorder, almost triumphed once. That was her first suicide attempt. And so, in an old ballet shoebox, Catherine stockpiles medications, preparing to take her own life before Zero can inflict his living death on her again. Before she goes, though, she starts a short bucket list. This bucket list, combined with the support of her family, new friends, and a new course of treatment, begins to ease Catherine's sense of isolation. The problem is, her plan is already in place and has been for so long that she might not be able to see a future beyond it. This is a story of loss and grief and hope, and how some of the many shapes of love, maternal, romantic, and platonic, affect a young woman's struggle with mental illness and the stigma of treatment. So if you want me to read this, vote The Weight of Zero. Also, I think I'm going to angle the camera down a little because it's kind of high. Okay, that seems a little better. All right, let's get back to the video. Okay, next up. Okay, so this next book, while I was at Ollie's, I was trying to look these books up on Goodreads so I could check ratings, maybe look at the reviews a little, and also to make sure they weren't part of a series. Because I have a problem with sometimes getting a book, not realizing it's a book in a series until I get home, and I was really trying to avoid that. But it still happened. So when I looked this book up on Goodreads, it didn't show it was part of a series. And just now I clicked on the author's titles, and even then I couldn't find the first book. But I just typed in a book that's listed on here and saw that it was the first book. And this is actually the second book in the series. So I have From Sunset Till Sunrise by Jonathan Rosen. So I definitely haven't read From Sunset Till Sunrise. And I also moved my seat up so I was a little bit higher. So I'm going to change my angle again. Okay, that's better. Sorry. Okay, so I have not read that, but I'm not sure if I still own it or not. Okay, so it looks like I do still own this one. But as I said, this is actually book 2 in a series. I still don't own the first book in this. And honestly, at this point, I don't know if I want to acquire it. So I'm going to write down that I need to unhaul From Sunset Till Sunrise, because I don't think I'm ever going to read it. And we will just mark that as unhauled. All right, next up. Okay, next up we have Waste of Space by Gina D'Amico. I feel like I still have this one, but I have to check. I definitely haven't read it. No, I've actually unhauled that one. All right, let me get back to the video. Next up. Next up is The Inexplicable Logic of My Life by Benjamin Alir Saiz. I feel like I did read this. I'm going to double check. I did read it, and I do still own that one. I gave it 4 stars. All right, next up. Next up is another middle grade. This one is Odds and Ends by Amy Ignato. It says The Adventures of the Not So Fantastic Four. I feel like I'm probably unhauled that one. I'm going to check. Okay, so I have not unhauled that one. And I haven't read it, but that is book 3 in a middle grade series. And again, this is one that I don't think I'm going to actually get the first 2 books for. So I'm going to write this one down as well to unhaul. And we will just mark that one as unhauled as well. All right, next up. Okay, these next 2 books are in a series. So I think this is books 1 and 2. Let me check. Yes, so this one is book 1. This one's book 2. We have The Vanderbeekers of 41st Street and The Vanderbeekers and the Hidden Garden. Okay, I feel like I still own these, so I'm going to double check. Okay, I do still own these. So the first one is The Vanderbeekers of 141st Street. This is the first book in the best-selling series that the New York Times Book Review hails as delightful and heartwarming. The Vanderbeekers have always lived in the brownstone on 141st Street.
It's practically another member of the family. So when their reclusive, curmudgeonly landlord decides not to renew their lease, the 5 siblings have 11 days to do whatever it takes to stay in their beloved home and convince the dreaded Biederman just how wonderful they are. And all is fair in love and war when it comes to keeping their home. So if you want me to read this, vote the Vanderbeekers of 141st Street. All right, next up.
Okay, next up we have Final Draft by Riley Redgate.
I have read that. I don't know if I still own it or not. I'm going to check. I remember reading that before. I gave it 4 stars, so yes, I do still own that one. All right, next up.
Next up we have Beyond Clueless by Lena Alcinas.
I don't know. I don't think I've read it, but I don't know if I still own it. Okay, actually, I unhauled that one. Next up.
Okay, next up is another bookish book, which, yay. You can just tell by the cover it's a bookish book. This is Fly By Night by Frances Hardinge.
I'm pretty sure I still own this one. I don't think I've read it. Okay, that is correct. This says, everybody knew that books were dangerous. Read the wrong book, it was said, and the words crawled around your brain on black legs and drove you mad, wicked mad. Mascamai was born on a day sacred to Goodman Palpitatle, he who keeps flies out of jams and butter churns, which is why her father insisted on naming her after the housefly. He also insisted on teaching her to read, even in a world where books are dangerous, regulated things. 8 years later, William Mai has died, leaving behind an orphan daughter with an inauspicious name and all-consuming hunger for words. Trapped for years in the care of her cruel Uncle Westerly and Aunt Bryony, Masca leaps at the opportunity for escape, though it comes in the form of sneaky swindler Apomonius Clint. As she travels the land with Clint and her pet goose, Saracen, Masca begins to discover complicated truths about the world she inhabits and the power of words. So if you want me to read this, vote Fly By Night. Oh my goodness, the names on that. All right, next up.
And this is book 1, and I also have book 2, Flytrap.
Okay, so I need to mark, I haven't read on Flytrap either, but we won't be voting for that one. But I'm counting it towards the total tally. Okay, continuing on.
Next up we have The Game Masters of Garden Place by Dennis Markell.
I feel like I unhauled this one. No, I actually still own it. Okay, that's surprising. Okay, this says a quirky Dungeons and Dragons inspired adventure that will appeal to gamers and readers of the Mr. Limoncello's Library series. What if your favorite fantasy game characters showed up on your doorstep IRL? 6th graders Ralph, Jojo, Noelle, Persephone, and Cammy are hooked on fantasy tabletop role-playing games. When they somehow manage to summon their characters to Ralph's house, things take a truly magical turn. The 5 are soon racing around town on a wild adventure that tests both their RPG skills and their friendship. Will Ralph and crew be able to keep their characters out of trouble, trying to convince a sticky-fingered halfling rogue not to pickpocket or a 6'5" barbarian woman that you don't always have to solve conflicts with a two-handed broadsword is hard enough? How will they ever send the adventurers back to their mystical realm? This sounds like a lot of fun. So if you want me to read this about the Game Masters of Garden Place. All right, next up.
Next up we have Beyond the Bright Sea by Lauren Wolk.
I have read that. Do I still own it? I can't remember. No, I did unhaul that one, but I did read it. Next up.
Next we have Liars and Losers Like Us by Amy Allen Vath.
I feel like I've unhauled this one. Nope. I do still own this one. This says, keep calm and make it to prom night without a legit panic attack. For 17-year-old Bree Hughes, it's easier said than done when gossip grief and the opportunity to fail at love are practically high-fiving her in the hallways of Belmont High. When Bree's crush, Sean Mills, gives her his phone number, she can't even leave a voicemail without sounding like a freak. Then she's asked to be on prom court because Maisie Morgan, the school outcast nominated as a joke, declined. She apologizes to Maisie, but it's too late. After years of torment and an ugly secret shared with her class's cruel pageant queen, Maisie commits suicide. Bree is left with a lot of regret and a revealing letter with a final request. With Sean by her side, Bree navigates through her guilt, her parents' divorce, and all the prom court drama. But when a cheating love triangle secret hits the fan after a night of sex, drinks, and video games, she's left with new information about Sean and the class pageant queen. Bree must now speak up or stay silent. If she lets fear be her guide, she'll lose her first love and head to prom to avenge the death of the school outcast as a party of one. So if you want me to read this, vote Liars and Losers Like Us. Snicker knocked over some stuff. All right, next up.
Next up we have It Ain't So Awful Falafel by Firuzi Dumas.
I don't know. Okay, I do still own this one, and I have not read it. This is Zumarad Sydney Yusevadeh is the new kid on the block for the fourth time. California's Newport Beach is her family's latest perch, and she's determined to shuck her brainy loner persona and start afresh with a new Brady Bunch name, Cindy. It's the late 1970s, and fitting in becomes more difficult as Iran makes U.S. headlines with protests, revolution, and finally the taking of American hostages. Even mood rings and puka shell necklaces can't distract Cindy from the anti-Iran sentiments that creep way too close to home. A poignant yet lighthearted middle-grade debut from the author of the best-selling Funny and Farsi. So if you want me to read this, vote It Ain't So Awful Falafel. Okay, so that puts us at 9. And we're like a third of the way through this video. So if we get even one more, I'll have to read at least the top 2 voted books. At this point in time, I'm guessing there's probably going to be more than that. All right, next up.
Next up we have And She Was by Jessica Verdi.
I'm not sure. Okay, I do still own this one, and I have not read it. This says, Dara lived a sheltered life with her single mom, Melly. Now at 18, she's dreaming of more. When Dara digs up her never-before-seen birth certificate, her world implodes. Why are 2 strangers listed as her parents? Dara confronts her mother and is stunned by what she learns. Melly is transgender. The unfamiliar name listed under father, that's Melly. She transitioned when Dara was a baby, shortly after Dara's birth mother died. But Dara still has more questions than answers. Reeling, she sets off on a road trip with her best guy friend, Sam. She's determined to find the extended family she's never met. What she discovers and what her mother reveals, piece by piece over emails, will challenge and change Dara more than she can imagine. From rising star Jessica Verdi, this is a gorgeous, timely, and essential novel about the importance of being our true selves. So if you want me to read this, vote And She Was. And with that, we are now picking at least the top 2 voted books. Continuing on.
Okay, up next we have Empress of All Seasons by Amiko Jin.
I'm pretty sure I still own this one, and I don't think I've read it. No, actually, I unhauled that one. I'm really bad at this guessing thing. All right, next up.
Next up we have Rules of the Rough by Heidi Lang.
I might still have this one. I do. Let's see. And I have not read it. This says 12-year-old Jessie is in for a long summer at her aunt and uncle's house. Her cousin Anne has a snotty new best friend, which leaves Jessica all alone. But Jessica is industrious and not content with being ignored all summer. She convinces Wes, a grouchy neighborhood dog walker, to take her on as his apprentice. Sure, dog walking turns out to be harder than she expected, but she has Wes's dog walking code, the rules of the rough, to guide her, and soon she's wrangling her very own pack. But when a charismatic rival dog walker moves to town, she quickly snatches up most of Wes's business, and Jessie decides she isn't going to take this defeat with her tail between her legs. So if you want me to read this, vote Rules of the Rough. All right, next up.
Next, we have another book by Frances Hardinge, and that is Verdigris Deep, and this one looks spooky.
I am pretty sure I still own this one, and I haven't read it, but let me double check. I was correct. Okay, this says Verdigris, a blue-green rust that tarnishes aging and forgotten copper coins, altering them entirely. One evening, Ryan and his friends steal some coins from a well. Soon after, strange things begin to happen. Particular burn marks appear on Ryan's knuckles, and light bulbs mysteriously explode. Then the well witch appears, with her fountains for eyes and gargled demands. From now on, the kids who've stolen from her must serve her, and the wishes rotting at the bottom of her well. So if you want me to read this, vote Verdigris Deep. All right, next up.
Okay, this next book is The Fix by Natasha Sinnell.
I'm not sure about this one. Okay, I do still own this one and have not read it. This says, 17-year-old Macy Lyons has been through something no one should ever have to experience, and she's dealt with it entirely alone. On the outside, she's got it pretty good. Her family's well off, she's dating the cute boy next door, she has plenty of friends, and although she long ago wrote her mother off as a superficial gym rat, she's thankful to have allies in her loving, laid-back dad and her younger brother. But a conversation with a boy at a party one night shakes Macy out of the carefully maintained complacency that has defined her life so far. The boy is Sebastian Ruiz, a recovering addict who recognizes that Macy is hardened by dark secrets. And as Macy falls for Sebastian, she realizes that while revealing her secret could ruin her seemingly perfect family, keeping silent might just destroy her. The Fix follows two good-hearted teenagers coming to terms with the cards they were dealt. It's also about the fixes we rely on to cope with our most shameful secrets and the hope and fear that comes with meeting someone who challenges us to come clean. So if you want me to read this, vote The Fix. All right, next up.
Next up, we have If You Come Softly, the 20th Anniversary Edition by Jacqueline Woodson.
I feel like I still own this one. I don't think I've read it, though. I was correct. This says, a lyrical story of star-crossed love, perfect for readers of The Hate You Give by National Ambassador for Children's Literature, Jacqueline Woodson. Jeremiah feels good inside his own skin. That is, when he's in his own Brooklyn neighborhood. But now he's going to be attending a fancy prep school in Manhattan, and black teenage boys don't exactly fit in there. So it's a surprise when he meets Ellie the first week of school. In one frozen moment, their eyes lock, and after that, they know they fit together, even though she's Jewish and he's black. Their worlds are so different, but to them, that's not what matters. Too bad the rest of the world has to get in their way. So if you want me to read this, vote If You Come Softly. All right, next up.
Next up, we have A Million Times Goodnight by Christina McBride.
I'm not sure about this one. Okay, I have unhauled that one. All right, next up.
Okay, next up we have Orphan Monster Spy by Matt Colleen.
I feel like I do still own this one. Okay, I do still own it, and I have not read it. This says, a Jewish girl turned spy must infiltrate an elite Nazi boarding school in this highly commercial, relentlessly nail-biting World War II drama. After her mother is shot at a checkpoint, 15-year-old Sarah, blonde, blue-eyed, and Jewish, finds herself on the run from a government that wants to see every person like her dead. Then Sarah meets a mysterious man with an ambiguous accent, a suspiciously bare apartment, and a lockbox full of weapons. He's a spy, and he needs Sarah to become one too. To pull off a mission he can't attempt on his own. Infiltrate a boarding school attended by the daughters of top Nazi brass, befriend the daughter of a key scientist, and steal the blueprints to a bomb that could destroy the cities of Western Europe. With years of training from her actress mother in the art of impersonation, Sarah thinks she's ready, but nothing prepares her for the cutthroat schoolmates, and soon she finds herself in a battle for survival unlike any she'd ever imagined. So if you want me to read this, vote Orphan Monster Spy. All right, back to the video. I think we're about like, yeah, it looks like we're about the halfway point at this point in time. And we have 15 already. Okay. All right, let's continue on.
Almost through with Ollie's books. Only have 3 more left. So next up we have Moon Chosen by PC Cast. This is Tales of a New World 1.
I'm pretty sure I do still have this. Yes, it's on my shelf right there. I'm not going to pull it off the shelf, but I'll just pull it up on Goodreads here. So this says, I haven't read it, by the way. This says, chosen to embrace her true identity, chosen to follow her destiny, chosen to change her world. Mary is an Earthwalker, heir to the unique healing powers of her clan, but she's been forced to turn from her duties until she is chosen by a special animal ally, altering her destiny forever. When a deadly attack tears her world apart, Mary reveals the strength of her powers and the forbidden secret of her dual nature as she embarks on a mission to save herself and her people. It's not until Nick, the son of the leader from a rival dominating tribe, strays across her path that Mary experiences something she has never felt before. Now evil is coming, and with it a force more terrible and destructive than the world has ever seen, leaving Mary to cast the shadows from the earth. By breaking clan law and forming an alliance with Nick, she must make herself ready to save her people, ready to save herself and Nick, ready to embrace her true destiny and battle the forces that threaten to destroy them all. So if you want me to read this, vote Moon Chosen. All right, next up.
Next up is actually a cookbook because I love cookbooks. But also I wanted to get some more like Instant Pot and Crock Pot kind of cookbooks. I love that kind of cooking where it's just kind of dump everything and go. So I have the Crock Pot Original Slow Cooker Diabetic Recipes, and it's every recipe is 350 calories or less.
So this is a cookbook, so I'm just going to mark this one as read and still own because I do still own it. All right, next up.
And then the last book that I got from Ollie's is a big one. This is The World Treasury of Fairy Tales and Folklore, a family heirloom of stories to inspire and entertain.
I haven't read that one. Oh, okay. So this is just a book of fairy tales and folklore. I don't really need to read the synopsis about it. But if you want me to read that, vote Fairy Tales and Folklore. All right, next up.
So now that I've finished with all of the Ollie's books, I can get to all of the other books that I got. So this one here on top actually came in the mail today. I checked the mail right before filming. This was a book, and I honestly don't remember at this point because it was so long ago, but this is a book that I won from Goodreads, and they notified me that I won. This was almost 2 months ago or something like that. Honestly, I can't even remember too much about what this is, but I do know that it is a graphic novel. It is The Daughters of Wise by M.T. Anderson and Joe Rio, and this is an ARC edition, but the book did come out in May of 2020.
I don't know if I still have this book or not. Okay, it looks like I do still own this. This says, an Atlas-like city from Celtic legend is the setting for this mythical graphic novel fantasy reimagining of the classic Breton folktale of love, loss, and rebirth, revealing the secrets that lie beneath the surface. Wise city of wealth and wonder has a history of dark secrets. Queen Malgvin used magic to raise the great walls that keep the wise safe from the tumultuous sea. But after the queen's inexplicable death, her daughters drift apart. Rosen, the heir to the throne, spends her time on the moors communing with wild animals, while Dahat, the youngest, enjoys the splendors of royal life and is eager to take part in palace intrigue. So if you want me to read this, vote The Daughters of Wise. All right, next up.
And then the next 6 books came from various subscription boxes. I think we have Owl Crate, Unplugged Book Box, and Real Bookish. So from the Owl Crate box, we have Goddess in the Machine by Laura Beth Johnson.
I don't know if I still own this one or not. I feel like I do, but I'm not entirely sure. I do still own this, and I have not read it. This says, when Andra wakes up, she's drowning. Not only that, but she's in a hot, dirty cave. It's the year 3102, and everyone keeps calling her Goddess. When Andra went into a cryonic sleep for a trip across the galaxy, she expected to wake up in 100 years, not 1,000. Worst of all, the rest of the colonists, including her family and friends, are dead. They died centuries ago, and for some reason their descendants think Andrea is a deity. She knows she's nothing special, but she'll play along if it means she can figure out why she was left in stasis and how to get back to Earth. Shade, the exiled bastard prince of Aransaid, has other plans. 4 years ago, the sleeping goddess's glass coffin disappeared from the palace, and Shade devoted himself to finding it. Now he's hoping the goddess will be the key to taking his rightful place on the throne, if he can get her to play her part, that is. Because if his people realize she doesn't actually have the power to save their dying planet, they'll kill her. With a vicious monarch on the throne and a city tearing apart at the seams, Shade and Andra might never be able to unlock the mystery of her fate, let alone find a way to unseat the king, especially since Shade hasn't exactly been forthcoming with Andra. And 1,000 years from home, is there any way of knowing that Earth is better than the planet she's woken to? So if you want me to read this, vote Goddess in the Machine. Okay, so that was 19 on the list so far. Yeah. So one more, and we'll have to read at least the top 3. Okay. All right, next up.
I have to change my battery because it's flashing, and I'll be right back. Okay, I am back, and this is the Owl Crate Junior book. It's The Time of Green Magic by Hilary McKay.
I feel like I've read this, but I'm not sure. I did read it, and I unhauled it. All right, next up.
Next, I think this was the YA book for Unplugged Book Box. We have I Killed Zoe Spanios by Kit Frick.
I'm pretty sure I still own this one, but I have not read it. That is correct. This says, this gripping thriller follows 2 teens whose lives become inextricably linked when one confesses to murder and the other becomes determined to uncover the real truth no matter the cost. What happened to Zoe won't stay buried. When Anna Sissoni arrives to the small Hamptons village of Heron Mills for a long summer nanny gig, she has high hopes for a fresh start. What she finds instead is a community on edge after the disappearance of Zoe Spanios, a local girl who's been missing since New Year's Eve. Anna bears an eerie resemblance to Zoe, and her mere presence in town stirs up still raw feelings about the unsolved case. As Anna delves deeper into the mystery, stepping further and further into Zoe's life, she becomes increasingly convinced that she and Zoe are connected, and that she knows what happened to her. 2 months later, Zoe's body is found in a nearby lake, and Anna is charged with manslaughter, but Anna's confession is riddled with holes, and Martina Green, teen host of the Missing Zoe podcast, isn't satisfied. Did Anna really kill Zoe? And if not, can Martina's podcast uncover the truth? So if you want me to read this, vote I Killed Zoe Spanios. Okay, so now we definitely have to read at least the top 3 books. I can't tell how many books are left, but there's still quite a bit of this video left. So there's a potential that I might even have to read the top 4. All right, next up.
And then we have the book that was in the adult box, and that is The Swap by Robin Harding.
I feel like I have this one as well. I don't think I've read it. That is correct. This says, Robin Harding, best-selling author of The Party, delivers a riveting tale about the toxic relationship between 2 couples after a night of sexual shenanigans, and the manipulative teenager with an explosive secret at the center of it all. Lo Morrison is not your average teen. You could blame her hippie parents, or her looming height, or her dreary, isolated hometown on an island in the Pacific Northwest. But whatever the reason, Lo just doesn't fit in, and neither does Freya, an ethereal beauty and once famous social media influencer who now owns the local pottery studio. After signing up for a class, Lo quickly falls under Freya's spell, and Freya, buoyed by Lo's adoration, is compelled to share her darkest secrets and deepest desires. Finally, both feel a sense of belonging, that is, until Jamie walks through the studio door. Desperate for a baby, she and her husband have moved to the island hoping that the healthy environment will result in a pregnancy. Freya and Jamie become fast friends, as do their husbands, leaving Lo alone once again. Then one night, after a boozy dinner party, Freya suggests swapping partners. It should have been a harmless fling between consenting adults, one night of debauchery that they would put behind them, but instead it upends their lives and provides Lo the perfect opportunity to unleash her growing resentment. So if you want me to read this, vote the swap. All right, next up.
Next up, we have Little Women.
I have read and still own Little Women. Next.
And they sent that one because the theme for that box was Little Women. And then the book for it was Joe and Laurie by Margaret Stoll and Melissa De La Cruz.
I feel like I still have Joe and Laurie, but I haven't read it. That is correct. This says, best-selling authors Margaret Stoll and Melissa De La Cruz bring us a romantic retelling of Little Women starring Jo March and her best friend, the boy next door, Theodore Laurie Lawrence. 1869, Concord, Massachusetts. After the publication of her first novel, Jo March is shocked to discover her book of scribbles has become a bestseller, and her publisher and fans demand a sequel. While pressured into coming up with a story, she goes to New York with her dear friend Laurie for a week of inspiration, museums, operas, and even a once-in-a-lifetime reading by Charles Dickens himself. But Laurie has romance on his mind, and despite her growing feelings, Joe's desire to remain independent leads her to turn down his heartfelt marriage proposal and sends the poor guy off to college heartbroken. When Laurie returns to Concord with a sophisticated new girlfriend, will Joe finally communicate her true heart's desire or lose the love of her life forever? So if you want me to read this, vote Joe and Laurie. All right, next up.
Okay, all the rest of the books are books that I either ordered online or picked up at another store. My local Books A Million is actually going, well, they're closing that store. Not all stores, but just that one particular store. And so they're not going to be closing for a while still. They said they're probably going to be open until like at least the new year. But right now everything in the store is 20% off. So I stopped in there to browse around a little bit and I picked up a few books. These are the books that I bought then. So we have A Werewolf in Riverdale by Kayla Brorig.
I have read and still own A Werewolf in Riverdale. Next.
Okay, next up I have The Merciless Four Last Rites by Danielle Vega.
I unhauled the whole series to Xander. All right, next up.
Then when I was doing my live show with Caleb, we were discussing like upcoming books and things that he was doing, and he was asked to write the 5th book in a series. The author has written there's a series from Mikol Asto that they've written 4 books, and I'm not sure why, but for some reason they're not able to write the 5th book. I don't know what happened, but the publisher reached out and asked Caleb to write the 5th book in this series. So I wanted to get the series so I could read all of his books. But these are also Riverdale books. So we have The Day Before, Get Out of Town, and Death of a Cheerleader.
Okay, so I actually unhauled that whole series. So those 3 are all marked as unhauled. And eventually you'll see the others in future haul. They've been unhauled as well. All right, next up.
And then the last one that I got from Books A Million was Irish Fairy Tales. And this is illustrated by author Rackham, John D. Baton, and others.
Okay. I haven't read that either. So that's just some Irish fairy tales. That is a big book though. Oh my goodness. I don't really need to read the synopsis. I don't even know if there is really a synopsis, just saying that it's Irish fairy tales. But if you want me to read that, vote Irish fairy tales. All right, next up.
Okay, then I think the rest of them I got online. So like Amazon. I think they all came from Amazon. But the first two are actually used ones, I believe. So we have My Lady's Choosing, an interactive romance novel by Kitty Coran and Larissa Zagaris.
I feel like I unhauled this one. I'm going to double check. I did unhaul that one. Okay, next up.
And then I also got a graphic novel. This is another one I think was used. It's the Babysitter Club, Volume 2, The Truth About Stacy.
I have read and still own this Babysitter Club graphic novel. All right, next up.
And then we have The Fell of Dark by Kayla Brory.
I don't think I've read The Fell of Dark. I don't believe I have, but I'm sure I still have it. Yeah, I haven't read it, but I do still own it. This says, the only thing August Pfeiffer hates more than algebra is living in a vampire town. Located at a nexus of mystical energy fields, Fulton Heights is practically an electromagnet for supernatural drama, and when a mysterious and annoyingly hot vampire boy arrives with a cryptic warning, Augie suddenly finds himself at the center of it. An ancient and terrible power is returning to the earthly realm, and somehow Augie seems to be the only one who can stop it. So if you want me to read this, vote The Fell of Dark. All right, we're getting close to the end. All right, next up.
And then last, but certainly not least in this haul, was a book that I pre-ordered The Fell of Dark, but I also pre-ordered this book, and I'm super excited for this one. This is a sequel. I've read the first book and absolutely loved it. It was, this is Unravel the Dusk by Elizabeth Lim.
That's funny. So no, I have not read Unravel the Dusk. Yes, I still own it. This is the sequel to Spin the Dawn, which, funny enough, I was actually supposed to read that in December and didn't. I've read Spin the Dawn before. I was going to reread it. That's funny. Anyway, yeah, so Spin the Dawn is like Project Runway meets Mulan meets Aladdin. Our main character, she, like her family, they all like sew and that kind of stuff. And the emperor is looking for a new seam, like, I forget what the word is for a male that does it, because it's only supposed to be men doing this, really. And they want his father, or they want her father, but he's too old to do it now. And her brother has just come back from war injured, and so she makes herself like a boy and goes in his place. But it turns out it's actually like a competition, like Project Runway style kind of competition to see, you know, so they're competing against other seamstress, but whatever the male version is. But it does kind of take a turn towards like the Aladdin side of things too. I loved it. I very, very much enjoyed it. And I was wanting to reread it again, but I just didn't get around to it in December. But I'm probably going to have to reread it if I have to read Unravel the Dusk. So yeah, if you want me to read this, vote Unravel the Dusk. Okay. So there are 25 books that I still own that I have not read from that haul. That's a lot. I think I said there were 44 in the beginning, so more than half I still own and haven't read. So here are the books that you can vote for. I'll try to be quick. You can vote for 1 Week Girlfriend, The Weight of Zero, The Vanderbeekers of 141st Street, Fly By Night, The Game Masters of Garden Place, Liars and Losers Like Us, It Ain't So Awful Falafel, And She Was, Rules of the Rough, Verdigris Deep, The Fix, If You Come Softly, Orphan Monster Spy, Moon Chosen, Fairy Tales and Folklore, The Daughters of Wise, Goddess in the Machine, I Killed Zoe Spanios, The Swap, Joe and Lori, Irish Fairy Tales, The Fell of Dark, or Unravel the Dusk. And you can vote for as many as you like. And I will be picking the top 3 books. So comment down below which book or books you would like me to read in the upcoming month. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you. Bye!